we have discussed about the basics of the HR strategy. इसको जरा one by one देख लेते हैं. We have discussed about the hard HRM and the soft HRM in the last session. Then we discussed about the employment contracts, full-time employment contracts, part-time employment contracts, temporary employment contracts, फिर flexi time employment contracts, zero hour contracts, teleworking and outsourcing को हमने डिटेल में we tried to understand that. Then we discussed about generally about a research that was conducted, and most of the managers believe that companies outsource because of the reason to reduce the cost to focus on the core business. That is not the part. It's not that important to understand this thing, but just it was given to give you an understanding, a general idea that why do managers outsource, or why do companies outsource their operations. And what is outsourcing? When you are given away the part of your operations to the third party, to the companies. For example, talking about the graphic designing, rather than having the graphic designers by yourself, what you try to do is you try to outsource this task to somebody else. It can be an individual, it can be a third party, and the difference between the person who you are hiring in your organization versus the person or the company which you are outsourcing is that the person which you have hired, you are going to pay the salary to that particular person. लेकिन द पर्सन विच इज़ या कंपनी जिसको आपने आउटसोर्स किया है, फॉर दैट कंपनी आप उनके साथ कोई प्रॉपर सैलरी नहीं फिक्स करते. एक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होता है कि फॉर एग्जांपल इन नंबर ऑफ मंथ्स in a month you will be giving a number of designs. Suppose 10 designs in a month is minimum which we are going to require from you, and you are going to provide that. एक kind of a piece rate system होता है आउटसोर्सिंग के अंदर, more or less. And why do we go for that? Because जो outsourcing की cost है, that is normally lesser than the cost of hiring an individual. आप एक इंडिविजुअल को हायर करेंगे, सपोज आपने 60-70,000 पर मंथ उसको सैलरी देनी है, तो इसके अगेंस्ट यू विल हैव एन ऑप्शन ऑफ द आउटसोर्सिंग. what would you do in the outsourcing? You will be obviously paying less than 50,000 or 40,000 to that particular employee, to that particular person or the organization. Why they are going to agree on that lesser amount? Because they are not dealing with just one company, they are dealing with 10 or 20 companies, and eventually collectively they are earning more as well. So it's a win-win situation for both of the businesses. So that was the concept of an outsourcing, जिसको हम जरा आगे डिटेल में देख लेंगे. Then we went towards the employment contracts. Okay, when you are developing a flexibility in the employment contracts, what are the advantages and disadvantages to the business? Then we have gone through what are the advantages and disadvantages for the employees for the flexible employment contract. That is an important question in a sense that it can be an analysis based question in your examination. The examiner may ask that analyze the possible advantages to an employee of the flexibility in an employment contract, or you can use this advantage and disadvantage in your analysis while you are talking about the HR policies. So that is why that these particular areas are going to be very important in your analysis, especially when you're talking about the HR strategy in as a 20 marker question. So be careful that in the 20 marker questions you will have to give a lot of analysis, और इस lot of analysis में since obviously कहीं ना कहीं हमारी कोई ना कोई बात related to the employment contract आ ही जाएगी. Then working in shifts. So what is the understanding of working in shifts? जरा quickly go through कीजिएगा. Working in a shift is basically when the work schedule that is performed on rotation. So you have gone through the concept of job rotation. What is job rotation? That you are changing the job category of a person. Against that, there is another concept which is called as working in shift. Shifts क्या है? Shift is basically morning shift, evening shift, and then the late night shift. Morning shift suppose starts from talking about the police sector, traffic police sector specifically. So if their morning shift starts at suppose 8 o'clock till 3 o'clock, then second shift starts from 3 o'clock till late night 8 o'clock, and same like that. So 3 shifts they might be dividing their tasks, because so that they can perform their task in 24/7, because they are required 24/7 at the end of the day. So working in a shift is also applicable in the production sector, in factories, since we can operate the machines for 24 hours. So what we do is we develop the shifts. So what are the advantages of working in shifts? to the business, aka the employees. First advantage को जरा देखें, ensures full utilization of the capital equipment, that is the machines. Suppose you are using the machines for 8 hours against that another company which is using the machine for 24 hours. Obviously उनकी capacity would be far higher. चलें नहीं 24 hours 20 hours कर लेते हैं, 4 hours relaxation time दे दें machine को. A company which is using 8 hours versus a company which is using the machines for 20 hours, obviously the output of the company B would be higher. So we are trying to utilize the capital equipment as much as possible. अब यहाँ आपके माइंड में हो सकता है ये क्वेश्चन आ रहा हो कि सर व्हेन यू आर गोइंग टू यूज मशीन्स ओवरली तो वो डिटोरिएट भी ज़्यादा होंगे, तो उनकी चांसेस ऑफ माल फंक्शनिंग भी ज़्यादा होगा. दैट इज़ ट्रू एज वेल, बिकॉज जब मशीन ज़्यादा परफॉर्म करेंगी, उनको ब्रेक्स कम मिलेंगी, तो उनके चांसेस ऑफ माल फंक्शनिंग भी ज़्यादा होंगे. सो इसलिए यहाँ पर वी विल सी द मैनुअल्स गिवन टू अस फॉर दैट मशीन कि इस मशीन को मैक्सिमम कितने टाइम तक ऑपरेट कर सकते हैं. एंड ऑब्वियसली द बिजनेस विल बी बाइंग दोज मशीन्स विच कैन बी ऑपरेटेड फॉर द लॉन्गर पीरियड ऑफ टाइम एज वेल. Second, easy to manage demand fluctuations by reducing number of shifts. So demand fluctuations by reducing number of shifts. So that's a very easy concept. What you do is, in the peak season, you may be calling up 2 or 3 shifts, but in the off season, you are calling just 1 shift. अब यहाँ पर अब आपकी माइंड में स्ट्रैटेजी को याद रखिएगा. What would be the strategy? अगर if you are working in off season in 1 shifts, and in the peak season you are working in 3 shifts, how would you manage the employees? Are you going to hire all of the employees as a full-timers, or you are going to use the combination of full-timers plus the part-timers? Obviously you are going to use the combination of full-timer versus the part-timers. अब minimum 1 shift is required, so 1 shift के workers will be taken up as a full-timer, can be, और जो बाकी 2 extra shifts हैं which are only required in the peak seasons of 3-4 months or 6 months max, तो they will be called up as a part-timers. इनको आप part time hire करेंगे या एक fixed period के लिए hire करेंगे. You can offer a part-time contract or you can also offer the fixed contract या fixed term contract to them as well, जिसको भी हमने पीछे go through किया था. Third, ability for workers to switch या exchange the shifts. So this is again an example of the flexibility. कि suppose you are not available in the mornings for quite some days, you can exchange the shift with other employee, especially that employee who is available at the alternative timings. So with the mutual understandings, employee normally exchange their shifts with each other, and that is obviously something you have to give when you are something to take. So what happens is, जैसे पुलिस के सेक्टर में होता है कि what they do is they know that they are going to go for a leave for 2 or 3 days, तो वो क्या करते हैं 2-3 दिन पहले से अपनी एक्स्ट्रा शिफ्ट्स लगाना शुरू करते हैं. they swap their shifts with other people. They tell them that I am going to take the shift on your behalf for these 2 days. Next 2 days you will be doing my shift as well along with your own. So अब इससे क्या होता है कि they will be relaxed for 2 days. Suppose they have to go on some vacation or some event. So this is how they actually and mutually try to manage with each other. That creates a sense of flexibility in an organization. Or business में eventually at the end of the day output remains the same. Fourth, easy commuting. Professionals who try to avoid the rush hours. It depends on the nature of a person. If a nature of the person is that they want to avoid the rush hours, so they will be giving the timings to the school or the college, the ones which are not that much rushy. Yeah. So for example, if I am giving a timing to one of the colleges in which I am teaching, I normally see that what are their off timings and what is the situation of traffic over there. So some of the colleges have got a very bad traffic control management system, or there is quite a bad traffic over there. So in that case what I do is I give them the timings which are not the off timings, which are not the on timings. So what happens is it helps me out in saving like 15 minutes to 1 hour every day, so that I'm not stuck in the traffic every other day. So what happens is this creates a sense of flexibility amongst the employees, that they opt for that shift or that timing which is not very rushy. But for some people that doesn't matter, so they can come in those timings as well. Okay, coming towards the disadvantages. So have a look at the first, second, third, fourth disadvantage and let me know if there is any point that requires a discussion. Okay, starting from the first one. Tightened maintenance schedules. Workers need to wait. So what happens is, okay, when you are working in the shifts, that means you are using the machines as much as possible. For example, we have got uh, 8 hours of shift, and we are having 3 shifts going on. That means 8 times 3, that is 24 hours a day. So machine is not stopping 24/7, it is working 24/7. So in that particular case, obviously after a month or after 2 months, there are some maintenance schedules that after 30 days or 40 days we have to overhaul the machine or check its lubricants, etc. So in that case, whenever or the machine shuts down or there is a malfunctioning in the machine, so if you are following a very tightened maintenance schedules, or if you are following very tightened shift hours where the machine is hardly getting a break, in that case what would happen? Suppose if the machine needs 2 to 3 hours of break in that day, the workers are working in shifts, they are available, but they won't be able to work on that time. For example, you can say, sir, why don't we go for the 7 hour or 6 hour shift then? Even though you are going for a 6 hour shift, that means you're working 18 hours a day and the machine is hardly getting 6 hours break, but the overhaul needs 10 hours. The maintenance requires more than 10 or 12 hours. It's a huge machine. So especially in those cases when the workers are, there may be a chances that when you're working in multiple 2 or 3 shifts and the machine is hardly getting turned off. So in that case, whenever the maintenance schedule comes in, yeah, whenever the machines are broken down, in that case, the workers will be waiting until unless the machine is again started working. So that is going to increase the cost for that particular time period. So we say that yes, we have increased the efficiency, but that doesn't mean okay, it is going to be forever, but sometimes there might be the bumps in the costs due to such overhauling our schedules, right? Okay, so second one is sleep deprivation, that is insomnia is common in shift workers. अच्छा जैसे I told you an example कि sleep deprivation कैसे होती है. So what happens is, जैसे talking about the traffic police again, so suppose you have to go on a leave for like 2 days, or if you want to go on a leave for 2 days, that means कि आप उनसे 2 दिन पहले क्या करेंगे? You will be going for double shifts. So for example, you are having 8 hours a shift, जैसे पाकिस्तान में होता है, we are having an 8 hour of shift for the traffic police mostly. So 8 hours की अगर शिफ्ट है तो आप क्या करेंगे? वन डे आप डबल शिफ्ट लगाएंगे, सेकेंड डे भी आप डबल शिफ्ट लगाएंगे, देन यू माइट बी गोइंग बैक, एंड जाहिर है सिंस यू आर गोइंग टू गेट लेस टाइम टू स्लीप इन दैट केस, obviously there is a traveling time coming from your home to the office hours, checking in, then checking out and going back to your home, that is also a travel time. So that means you are hardly going to have like 4 to 5 hours of sleep in those 2-3 days. So what happens is there would be a chances of sleep deprivation. So sleep deprivation comes in when the shift workers normally try to uh, go for the double shifts, either in order to get a leave in the future, or in order to like increase their payments. For example, they want to earn more because of some event coming up and they need the money. So in that case, obviously they will be started working more. So that is not an option for the time-based wage rates, but in the shifts, you can go for the double shifts and get the overtime. That is quite normal in the factories. So in that case, we normally see these people having such sleep deprivation issues. Third, scheduling issues, that 84% of the work traditional hours and rest phase in social and family life. So what happens is, other than the sleep deprivation, your social life is quite hampered, especially you are working in late night hours. Let's try to recall the call center jobs. There is the highest turnover rate in the call center jobs. People join in, after 4, 5 months, 6 months, 1 year, they leave that. Why? The biggest issue is not getting the uh, you know clients. It's not the problem. Getting the customers is not the problem over there. The problem is the most of the call centers are working in, especially the outbound call centers are working in US, or you're working for the US projects or for the UK projects. And since there is a time difference, especially when it comes to US, so these call center works at late nights mostly. So once you are having the job in the late nights and you come back home at suppose like 10 o'clock in the morning, that means you're going to go to bed at 10 a.m. Then you're going to get up at around like 4 to 5, and then you're going to again prepare for the second job late night, or you are hardly having the time to meet up some people or go for the events, etc. So your social life is disturbed a lot. So that is the biggest reason the people start leaving such jobs, because they feel like their social life is getting disturbed. In addition to that, there is one more element. Remember, whenever you are going against the nature will punish you. That is what my parents always told me. That when you are waking up late nights and sleeping in the mornings, it is going to be a health disaster. It is. So the recovery which the body does in the late nights is far better than when you're sleeping in the mornings. So that is medically proven thing. So the people who are working in the shifts normally face such type of social issues, health issues, and insomnia issues. Fourth point, the higher risk of accidents, that is drowsy or tired during your non-traditional work shifts, especially when you are not very much into the late night hour shifts, and you have to do that. This is going to create a higher chances of accidents. The next element is obviously the assignment of the day. So have a look at the assignment. Identify and analyze the benefits. That is the first question. And then second part of the question is limitations of the following. So suppose if you are given a question of 8 mark, identify the benefits of the flexi time, benefits of the home working, benefits of the analyzed hours contracts, benefits of job sharing, and benefits of compressed hours contracts. Yeah, vice versa, you are given the limitations as a question. So you are just supposed to develop a structure. I'm not asking for the answers, I'm just asking for the structures. कि अपने माइंड में एक स्ट्रक्चर ज़रूर बिल्ड करें कि व्हाट डू यू थिंक कि व्हाट वुड बी द एडवांटेजेस ऑफ फ्लेक्सी टाइम एंड व्हाट वुड बी द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ दैट analysis and further analysis can be developed, especially for the 8 markers. So if you develop these, such information can be utilized in the 12, even in the 20 markers, or can be utilized anywhere whenever you're using the HR in the analysis. So all of these 5 points are supposed to be taken up by all of you. Tomorrow we will be having a discussion by seeing your answers, that such answers can be acceptable or not. So tomorrow's task is in front of you. You guys can take the snapshot of it, plus I can share it in the group as well. Next one is the concept of the core versus the peripheral workers. Achha ji, what is core worker and what is the peripheral workers? So have a look at the example in front of you. The core workers are the main core or nucleus of the job work. So number one is the core group, which has been seen in red. So that is the core, that is the nucleus of any organization. So the core group is normally taken up as a full-timer, a permanent employee. Then we have got the second layer, which is called the second peripheral group or external group. This is called as the part-timers mostly. Most of the people work in temporary contracts or the part-time contracts. And then the third layer, the outer layer, is called as outsourcing. That if the task can be outsourced, that is far away then the nucleus. So these are normally the three layers which we use in an organization. The core team members, then the part-timers or the temporary workers, and then third layer is the outsourcing. It is just for the sake of understanding. We're not going to dive deeper into it, but we are going to use it as a baseline for the next slide, which is the slide of Shamrock Organization. So Shamrock does the same thing. So according to the Shamrock Organization, the workers are divided in three categories: the core workers, the flexible workers, and then the outsourced workers. Who are the core workers? They are offered full-time permanent contracts, and they are also given the benefits and the perks. And have a look at the picture. Which type of workers are the core workers? Normally, the strategists. The people who are developing the strategies are called as the core workers. They cannot be flexible, they cannot be outsourced. The strategist means the directors of an organization. They are always the core workers, they are always the full-timers. You have never seen the principal as a part-time principal. You never see a headmaster, headmistress, or section head as a part-time. But you may see a teacher as working as a visiting or a part-time. Because the strategists are supposed to be the full-timers always. Then we have got the knowledge processors and the core processors. Who are the knowledge processors? Accountants. And then information or knowledge processors means the accountants. The information is the key element for these people. If an accountant is a part-timer, especially in a school or college, who would be very much who will be managing such records? Because a part-timer cannot do that. But yes, if it is a small scale school or organization, that is another thing. But normally the accountants or the people having the secrets of the organizations are taken up as the core workers, in simple words. So strategists and the people who have got the secret information, the business secrets, are supposed to be the core workers. And accounting information is the secret information for any business, for which the competitor can take advantage of very easily. So such people are taken up as a permanent or a full-time workers. Then we have got the second layer, which is called as the flexible workers layer. So what are the flexible workers? They are called on as and when they are required, and they are less loyal with the organization. And benefits and perks are normally not given to the flexible workers. So what do you mean by flexible workers? The part-timers, any person who is giving less than 8 hours a day to an organization on average, approximately through 2, 3, 4 hours a day to an organization. So that is called as a part-timer. So these are called as the flexible workers. They are normally less loyal with the organization because they are not putting in all of their eggs in one basket. Remember, one person who is affiliated with only one organization obviously will be loyal to that organization because that organization is the bread and butter for that person. But if a person is working in 3 or 4 different companies as a part-time worker, the person is not going to be that much loyal against that person who is a permanent worker. Why? Because the person has put in his or her eggs in like 3-4 baskets. If one business is not giving up full attention to the employee, or not agreeing to the demands of the employee will leave that organization and join some other, because the person is not fully depending on one organization. So especially in that case, flexible workers are normally less loyal to the organizations. They are not depending on only one organization. That is the reason. That is why they are either the part-timers, the flexi time contracts are offered to these people, or you can say that 0-hour contracts are also given to such people as well. Third one is the outsourced worker, the third layer, the external layer. So specific services which are not required all of the times, like advertising. A school or a college goes for a seasonal advertisement. Admissions are open normally just right after the Cambridge examinations. So they are going to open up their admissions and they're going to start advertising extensively in those 1 or 2 months or max 3 months. So that means they should not be hiring a person for the advertisement purposes, because the person is going to be required for only 3 months. So what about rest of the 9 months? The person is going to get the salary obviously, and you cannot say you're going to hire a person for 3 months only. That is not feasible as well, because you may not get a person in the peak times. The person who is expert in school and colleges will not be available in peak times because that person will be hired by anyone. So in that case, you normally outsource your job, get a contract, get into a contract with any other organization and tell them that during these 3 months we will be requiring your efforts. Since that agency or person will be dealing with multiple people or multiple organizations, so the agency or the person can easily manage your work as well. And then the cost for you is going to be little lesser. Why? Because paying a person for the full year against paying the agency for 3 months only, that is obviously far lesser against paying the person for the whole year. So advertisement, graphic designs, web services, hiring services, these are the services which are normally and easily outsourced. You are going to hire people at the start of the year only, at the start of the session only. So what's the point of having a whole HR department in your organization? So such things are normally outsourced and given away to the external company. But remember, any secret information must not be available with such people, because these people will be working with your competitors as well. They might be working with your competitors. So you must be giving them the information which is only required. So graphic designer obviously will be getting an information which is supposed to be placed in the posters, or the website designers are going to get the information which is supposed to be posted on the websites only. They are not going to have an access to the internal information of the company. So these are the three layers which we use: the core workers, the nucleus of the organization, flexible workers, and then the outsourced workers, the third level of workers. So any question so far related to any of these elements? Let's move ahead with the next element, that is the case study. So this is the case study again, the second assignment which is going to be for you for this session. So you will have to go through this case study by yourself, try to develop the two answers. So we are not going to discuss it tomorrow, obviously. We are going to discuss it in the next class, next to next class obviously, and we will be having a detailed discussion on this case study, since this is quite relevant. And you know, I do not give all of the activities from the books or materials, but since something is important, that is why I give it away to you guys in the presentation. So this is important, that is why I've added this. So this will be discussed in the session next session. Okay, so this one is not important, but just giving you an idea, a basic information that how can managers prepare for the new era in work. So there is a concept of where, how, and when, and then there is a concept of mandate, mobilize, and monitor. It's kind of futuristic approach. You can go through it if you want to have an idea that how the companies are working futuristically. It's just it was quite an interesting slide. So I added up this particular picture for you so that you can have an idea that how futuristic companies works, especially when it comes to the HR. It's not necessary, it's not a part of the syllabus, but an add-on. So the next concept is the measuring employee performance. And as we know, there is going to be one question at least, which is a calculative based question. And then there is another part which may ask you to analyze and evaluate on the basis of that calculation. So specifically, when you do not know about calculation, that you're not going to lose 2-3 marks, but you may lose more than 12 marks. Why? Because on the basis of that calculation, you will be asked to analyze or evaluate. If you do not know how to calculate, how would you analyze? How would you evaluate? That is why I always say the calculation based questions are always very crucial. And these are the only, like hardly we have got like 4 or 5 formulas in the HR. So all of these formulas must be memorized. So the first one is the labor productivity. How would you measure the productivity of labor? The total output of the labor divided by the total number of workers employed in an organization times 100. So you will be getting an productivity of the labor. Then absenteeism rate. What is absenteeism rate? Number of employees absent in an organization divided by total number of employees times 100. Normally absenteeism rate is counted annually. So that is why we say number of employees absent in a year on average, and then total number of employees in that organization on average in a year times 100. So it is a proportionate of the number of employees absent and total number of employees. But don't worry, these values are going to be straightforwardly given to you guys. You just have to pick up the values, plug it in the formula, and on the basis of absenteeism rate and on the basis of the labor productivity, you can develop analysis. If the labor productivity is going down, absenteeism rate is going up, what does that indicate? The poor motivation of an employee. So obviously, the case studies, the examiners are not going to give you the answer directly that the motivation level is down. They may have given you such absenteeisms of the employees, and they may not even ask you to find out the absenteeism rate. They just ask you to analyze the motivation levels or the HR policy. You say that yes, we believe that motivation level is going down. And what is the reason? Because we have calculated the absenteeism rate and it seems that it is going up and the productivity is going down. That is the major indicator of the poor staff motivation. So in order to justify our argument, we may use such calculations sometimes as well. This is the second style of the answer. The first style was, he is going to ask you the question numerically, then ask you to analyze or evaluate. This is an easy approach. Alternatively, the examiner may ask you to just analyze and evaluate without asking you about any calculations. So in order to justify your argument, obviously you will be doing some mathematical jugglery. And these two formulas are going to be one of them. So again, one question which can be done very easily. So let's quickly try to do that. So first is, he says calculate the absenteeism rate for all three companies. So how are we going to find the absenteeism rate? What is the formula for that? We said that number days lost through absenteeism is given. So that means for the company A, 320 days were lost due to the absenteeism on average. And then average number of workers are 160 in an organization. That means 320, and then average number of workers are also given. You can easily find the absenteeism rate in an organization. Then explain what happens to the second part is explain what happens to the labor cost per unit as labor productivity varies. So labor ki productivity is 6250, that is already given, and then the total output is 1 million. So how you are going to calculate the labor productivity? Output divided by the labor productivity. So you can calculate that what is actually per labor output in that particular case. So explain what happens to the labor cost. So what is going to be the impact on the labor cost? The output is increasing, productivity is also increasing. So what happens to the cost per unit? So if the productivity increase, the cost per unit decline. If the productivity goes down, that means the cost per unit goes up. That's simple as that. We don't need to calculate anything. Then part 3, analyze possible causes of the different level of labor productivity in these three companies. So what do you think? What could be the cause of the different productivity levels? In company A, the productivity is 6,000 something. Company B, it is 7,000 something. In company C, it is 10,000 something. Obviously, it belongs to only one same industry. As it is written, it's a tablet computer assembly industry. The industry is always same in the question. So in the same industry, one company has got 6,000 plus, second is 7,000 plus, third one is having 10,000 plus. So the company C is performing nearly double as company A. So why productivity is too much in that case? So you can also relate that with the absenteeism rate in that company as well. So 10,000 is the productivity, but absenteeism is also high. In that case, average number of workers are 300 in that case. So you have to compare all of these, try to do the mathematical jugglery and see which informations can be interlinked with each other in order to develop the answer. And then question number 4, analyze the likely consequences for company B of its absenteeism rate. So if the absenteeism rate of company B is 750, it's nearly double than company A. So in that case, even more than double. So that means what is going to be the consequence for that? If absenteeism is high, the productivity is low. And if the productivity is low, that means if such absenteeism could have been catered, the productivity of company B would have been better, just like company C. So they have got 750 absenteeism rate. They are better than A. but they are not better than C. So that means they could have been like C or better than C if their absenteeism rate was quite adjusted. So we can understand the relationship of absenteeism, the relationship of productivity, the relationship of the total output. So in this question, I'm deliberately not giving you the answer. I'm just trying to give you a brainstorming idea, a brainstorming basics, that try to brainstorm on this thing, that what is the relation of absenteeism with the productivity? What is the relationship of productivity with the output? What is the relationship of the annual working days of the employees, which is 210, which such information? Try to develop your answers. Try to find out the links. If you find out the links, best. If not, no issues. We will be discussing that in the next class. Right? So I think that is it for the day. In the next class, we will be having just few slides left, like talking about the MBO, etc. And then we will be trying to close down this particular